Hello, and welcome to Title Talk in Real Estate in New York. I'm Brenda Posner, and today we have Llewellyn Tejada with us. So, Lou, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself first before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Llewellyn Tejada. I work for Loan Depot. I'm a loan consultant over here. I've been in financial services for over 11 years now. Yeah, my job as a loan officer is to basically guide you through the mortgage process from the beginning when, buyers are just looking to get pre-approved, get an idea what to qualify for, all the way up until closing, making sure the loan closes and they get approved and everything goes smoothly. And even after the process, when they just have general mortgage questions or they're looking to buy new property or refinance and such, I'm the go-to guy.
Super. And so, we're speaking to potential buyers out there. So we want to give them an idea because they might not be familiar. How can they apply, for a loan, and how long does it take? Like just some general ideas.
Of course, yeah. There's multiple ways you can apply. The easiest and the go-to right now is online. Most people feel the most comfortable, doing it that way. And it's actually the most efficient way. On that application, it's going to ask you all your personal information, where you live, where you work. It'll ask you for permission to pull your credit, and it'll ask you to disclose the funds that you have, to buy the home, your down payment funds. And you can do it from any device. You could do it on your phone, on a tablet, on a computer, whichever is most comfortable for that person. And then of course we have some folks that are not comfortable doing things online. They rather do it over the phone and in person. And that's totally fine too. So we can accommodate anyone that's looking to apply.
Okay. And how long does the normal application process last?
So usually I try to do all applications same day. The application online, most on average, it takes folks about 7 minutes. I've seen some completed in 5. I've seen some take 20 minutes. Maybe the folks that take longer, their file is maybe a little complex, where maybe they have multiple properties or multiple businesses, where the data entry sometimes is a little bit lengthy. And then I tell everyone, I'll get back to you once you submit it within a couple of hours. I will let you know if I need any additional information to finish the application. And usually that's if we can't verify things digitally. For example, like if I can't verify your income through our digital source, then we will ask you to upload, a pay stub or tax returns if you're self-employed or have other income streams. Same thing with your assets. On our online application, you can actually link your bank accounts. It'll give us a 60-day transaction history. That way we don't have to ask you for bank statements. But some people, would rather provide the bank statement. So we have several options, but generally very quickly, we can complete an application and get someone pre-approved, usually same day within a couple of hours. But, let's say we don't get all the information and the borrower needs some time to gather the information or the documentation, maybe that can take, a day or two, if depending on how soon we get the information we need.
Okay, so so now that you mentioned documentation, so what other type of documentation do you need for the commitment letter?
Yes. So first, we always start with a pre-approval. That way, they have an idea of what they qualify for. And we check. We check on the application. We check your income. We check your credit, and we check your assets. With that information, we're able to get someone pre-approved. And then next, the letter, the commitment letter, that actually comes after you have a fully executed contract. Which means, the buyer has signed the contract and the seller has signed the contract to purchase the home. That's the first piece we need. And that usually that'll come after you have found the home, of course. And the first thing we need is the contract, of course. And then at that time, we also check to see if anything has expired from when we pre-approved you initially. So we check, your credit, see if it's still valid. Credit is good for 120 days from the day that we pulled credit. So from the day that you filled out the application. Same thing for your income documents and your asset documents also expire within 120 days. So we check those documents that you've provided, make sure we have those four: contract, your credit report, your income documents, and your asset documents. If those are good, they're not expiring within the 120 days, then we can submit your loan to the underwriter so they can review your loan application. And if everything is there, is all good, then they can provide the commitment letter.
Okay, so how long does this process normally take?
Yep. So once we have all that documentation, we submit it to underwriting, and usually within a week, we get the commitment letter back. But some lenders may take longer. It depends on, the underwriting turn times. Right now, we're at about a week to get someone a commitment letter.
Okay. So is it possible to get a commitment letter without an appraisal report?
It is. Some attorneys actually will confirm that the appraisal was received and approved before they even send it to the seller's attorney. So, to go back to the previous question, we just need those four: the contract, the credit report, your income and your assets, and then you can get a commitment letter. So we don't need the appraisal report, but we will put on the commitment letter that it is subject to the appraisal report. And the reason why a lot of people ask this is because we can technically, recant our commitment letter if the property doesn't appraise, or if there's issues, with the property that we uncovered during the appraisal inspection. So this is why this is a common question, but yes, we can. There are a lot of lenders that won't do it, for their compliance reasons. And then there's a lot of attorneys that won't accept it as a commitment letter until the appraisal is approved.
So just what's the timing of the appraisal? How long have they been taking nowadays?
Appraisal turn times have improved. It was a little bit crazy months ago. But right now I'm seeing so the appraisal process is basically once we have your contract, we put in the information into the system. We will send the borrower disclosures that they have to e-sign, and then they go on the website and they submit the appraisal payment. Once you submit the payment, right away, we send that to the appraiser with the contract and the realtor's contact information, and they usually contact them between usually same day, 2 days, 3 days at the very longest, just to make contact and schedule the inspection. And then they usually schedule same thing within a couple of days or within a week at the furthest. And then we usually get the appraisal report back within a week from the inspection. So, the quickest we're getting appraisal reports right now is probably a week from the day that they order it. At the longest, it's probably taking 2-3 weeks. And it usually only takes that long if, the seller is too busy to, provide access to the unit or to the property. Or a combination of the appraiser, maybe his workload or her workload is too much at the time.
Okay. So, with all these different processes, and just to give people an idea of how long everything takes, how soon can somebody close once they get the commitment letter?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once we give the commitment letter, we start to make expectations with them. And we always try to target the close date that's on the contract. So we look at the contract at the very beginning. We say, hey, based on your contract, this is your close date. is this the date that you want to close on? If you want to close earlier, let me know, or want to close later, let me know, and we will try to target that close date. And the funny thing about New York is it's like an on or about date. And all attorneys, they like to, by default, enter a 60-day contract. Although, let's say there's a situation where the unit is vacant and everybody's on board to close fast in 20, 30 days, we could definitely accommodate, but just let us know up front, because we're going to go by the date on your contract, which is usually going to be 60 days. Sometimes we see 90 days. But to answer your question, how soon we can close from the time that we have commitment is as soon as we get the items listed on the commitment letter. So on the commitment letter, you'll see a list of conditions, and the most common ones are appraisal. If we get the commitment before the appraisal report comes in, which as of lately we have been, because our underwriters are moving faster than our appraisers. The number two most common one would be the title report. That's something that your attorney would order. Some attorneys order it up front, right when you sign contract. Some order it when they get the commitment letter. And if you're applying for a co-op, then that attorney might even wait until you're board approved to order the title report, or for co-ops, they call it a lien search. And then insurance is usually the last item we get. We need to confirm that you have insurance for the property that you're buying, whether that's a co-op, a condo, or a house. We need to see that. And then there might be other conditions on there. If you have large deposits in your bank account, they'll need explanations and sourcing. If there was anything unusual with your documentation, they might ask for emails explaining something. And basically, once we receive all of those items on that commitment letter, then we can submit your loan back for the final approval, which is back with underwriting. And if they agree that everything that you submitted was sufficient and was what they asked for, they clear your loan for closing. Then your loan goes to the closing department, and then they start reaching out to all parties to schedule a close date. So they'll reach out to you and your attorney and the lender's attorney, and then they all try to schedule a close date. Usually from commitment to close to actual closing, the fastest I see is about a week. For example, let's say you get the commitment letter, we get all your documents within a day or two. The loan is cleared to close the following day. And then let's say your attorney is available to close the following day. Probably the fastest is about that time, about a week. But sometimes it can take 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on, how soon we get the title report. Some title companies can get that in a week. Some can take 2 or 3 weeks. I know Langdon has been extremely fast lately with title reports, and that's been great. So I think that's in days. So, check with your attorney how soon, you can get the title report. And appraisal report, I gave you those turn times, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the very most. And yeah, as soon as we get those conditions in, but sometimes it can take 2-3 weeks to actually get a close date, because it might take some time just to get those third-party reports. The title and the appraisal are usually the only things holding up the final approval so you can close.
Yeah. And as soon as we get the title back, we proactively start clearing it so that we can get all loose deals closed as fast as possible, and anyone else's.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Lou, for joining us. Another quick question. So when is the best time, if somebody is considering purchasing a house, when should they get in touch with you?
I tell everyone, as soon as they're thinking about, buying a home, and they're just curious to know like how much they would qualify for, and just having the idea if they want to start planning to purchase a home, it's always good just to have that initial conversation. You don't necessarily have to be ready today or within the next couple of months or within the year. If you just want to plan for it, it's good to have that initial conversation, just so you have an idea of what you qualify for and what the next steps would be. And then when you're actually ready to, go out there, look at homes, put in offers, that would be the time to apply and get pre-approved. So that way you have, a letter, you're approved. That is good for 120 days, and you know exactly what you qualify for. You're not going to have any hiccups throughout the road. About 90% of the time, 95% of the time, folks that have a pre-approval have a very smooth process because we ironed everything out at the very beginning. So it becomes a very smooth process if you start, with a pre-approval.
Okay. So great. So now everybody out there, you're how to get started, and you know who to call. So thank you so much, Lou. This was great. Very, very informative. Thank you everyone for joining us, and everybody have a great day.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.